Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be with you here in Venice.
Likewise.
Huge congrats on the documentary. Thanks so much for taking the time. For people who haven't seen it yet, can you give us a brief intro? What can they expect going in?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to tell you what to expect. I think expect the unexpected, and I think. Well, the opening sequence pretty much sets the tone in terms of this is not at all going to be the film about Kim Novak that you think it's going to be, and that's kind of what I like to do. It's a portrait. It's a very, very personal portrait of Kim as a human, more than as an icon or a movie star. Of course, we talk a lot about her career, certainly, but it's a really up close and personal portrait of an extraordinary human who I think deserves to be rediscovered.
You've mentioned that actually this film feels more personal to you as well in comparison to the other ones you've made. And in that opening sequence, you describe how the movie Vertigo sort of, gave birth to your love of cinema.
Yes.
So maybe you can talk us through your much more personal connection to cinema, to Kim's cinema, and how you express that through the movie.
Vertigo is, it's really hard to express how much that movie means. I don't think we'd be sitting here today, quite frankly. Well, obviously we wouldn't be sitting here today without Vertigo. But I think for me, I don't think I would have become a filmmaker. It's my very first movie memory. I had a wallpaper in Switzerland that was very similar to the wallpaper at Ernie's, where she makes her first appearance in the film. And so this image of wallpaper on wallpaper and Kim in her black and green satin dress coming out of that towards me is an image that has been burned into my brain, my psyche, my heart, my soul for forever. And I think it's this image that has kind of propelled the love of for Vertigo and Hitchcock's cinema, and that really turned me into a cinephile ultimately. And, I never thought I'd become a filmmaker, but then eventually I did. And so this is kind of a full circle moment. Kim talks about this film as being a full circle moment for her. It's very much a full circle moment for me as well. And it's the first film that I'm actually a part of in terms of I'm on camera. I don't do that. I really refrain from doing that. But I think it became essential in this film because of this kind of personal connection. And so it's a very different film for me.
Even the form itself, it kind of unfurls, not necessarily in a sort of strict narrative in the way other documentaries might. And you almost let Kim's voice guide us, and sometimes it meanders and we have her being so candid, so wise, so funny, but, it's so incredibly honest. So was that something you had from the outset, or did you almost let it take that form?
Well, it's, structurally, and I like, by the way, I love that you use the word unfurls. I just had this image of a fern, and it's really interesting because in a way, this is exactly what happens. I mean, it's not just the spirals, but as it unfurls, she's opening up, she's opening up about herself and about her life and about her, very difficult moments of, from her childhood and early career and all of that stuff. But the film itself has, very intentionally a spiral structure, which of course is an homage to Vertigo, but this idea that we keep sort of coming back to this idea of she left Hollywood, but each time she comes back to that, it's like we're coming back to the same point, but there's new reasons now along the way. So, as I always like to say, my films are not about answering questions or saying this is who this person is. Kim is a mystery. She's always been a mystery. And you enter the film knowing that she's a mystery. But by the end of the film, I think she's probably a deeper mystery, if anything. Yes, of course, you learn a lot of things. But, the facts that's just one component, I think, of a film like this. To me, I'm much more interested in deepening the mystery, about opening doors, about creating questions and engaging the audience in those ways.
When someone is so iconic in our culture, people sort of have an image, I think, in their minds of who they are. Yeah. And you very much try to get behind that and you show how much, she's a poet, she's a painter, not just an actress.
Yeah.
What were some of the most surprising things you learned in making the documentary, and what do you want audiences to take away?
Well, I think ultimately it is about this idea of breaking down the barrier between the audience and the icon and the movie star, and realize that Kim is also a human, a beautiful, incredible human, a very vulnerable human who has a lot of wonderful things to say and wonderful things to share, and who is very poetic. Some of the voice memos that I use in the film are poetry, and this is Kim just ad-libbing, just kind of. She left me these extraordinary voice memos. Some of them made me cry. Some of them just made my jaw drop. But it became a technique that I think really worked. Because they became beyond all the filming that we did together. They became kind of a confessional. It was a way for her that anytime, and I told her, anytime there's something you want to get off your chest, something you feel like you forgot to tell me, or something you want to tell me more about, just take your iPhone, record your voice. And I showed her how to do it and how to send that to me. And so I would start getting them on a daily basis, they're extraordinary.
And in terms of, obviously, you're opening up people's view of Kim Novak herself, but I think there's so many things that the documentary ruminates on as well about our culture and how we treat women in Hollywood. And, she expresses so many things about not being able to sort of be her true self, or trying to almost escape from that limelight to find her own identity. So do you think there are other questions that people can take away in that sense?
Well, I hope so, yeah. And it's not just about, the treatment of women in Hollywood. It's just the way that, women are treated everywhere, every day, and there's a lot of it's a lot of things that make me very sad about my gender, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I think we are in a very interesting time in history now, certainly in the United States, but in other places as well, where decency seems to have gone out the window, truth seems to have gone out the window, emotional truth seems to have gone out the window, where greed and money are the only thing that really seem to matter. There's a lot of people who are not like that, but this is the norm now. This is the dialogue. These are the things that we're talking about because of a certain individual that I'm not going to mention. He's not worth mentioning by name. But I think it's very important to make films and to work with people who have better things to say. We're better than this as humans. We're collective, and the moment we all realize we're better than this, all this stuff is going to be flushed down the toilet of history, once and for all. But we have to make that effort, and we're not there yet. And I'm hoping that it's going to take some time. But my little way of contributing is to keep doing those kinds of films, and that's all I can do. And hopefully, it's something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Huge congrats on the film.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed presenting it here in Venice. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.